I'm a director based in our Manchester office. EY has got a market-leading restructuring and turnaround practice that works nationally, and we advise stakeholders in all sorts of situations where there is financial stress or distress of one form or another. So we can advise banks or investors, landlords, pension schemes. Within that national team, we've got a special practice within it that focuses on advising companies and companies only, and that's the team that I'm a part of. So my role is to advise business leaders, CEOs, CFOs, other executives when there's a situation of financial stress or distress or uncertainty of one form or another. It's hard to give a list per se of what the issues are because they're so varied and so broad, but I think in my recent experience I'd categorise them in three areas. The first is energy. So the cost of energy has become a real challenge for most businesses, whether they are a high intensive user or whether they are a low intensive user. That unpredictability of the cost of energy has become a real challenge. Related to that as well is the funding of that energy. Most clients plan to pass the cost through to their customers, but they have to buy the energy, pay for it often very quickly. They have to produce their product and they invoice their client, their customer, much later on in the process. They've got to fund the cost of energy even if they can pass the cost through. So energy and working capital is the first really big issue. The second is supply chains. So as well as the cost of goods, access to and stability, certainty of supply is a real issue. It's become normal for most of my clients to experience a disruption within their supply chain. A lot of my clients now plan for the failure of a critical supplier and have contingencies in place to manage that kind of event. The third issue, the third bucket that I'd capture things in it is kind of finance or money. So inflation, interest rates are rising, the cost of borrowing has risen, exchange rates have fluctuated, meaning that the cost of imports is now much greater than it was. That kind of financing environment is really tough for any client that needs to refinance or raise investment in the current environment. And if you bolt that together with the energy and the supply issues, it can become quite tough. All of that means that forecasting with certainty is very hard today, and making business decisions going into 2023 is really tough for a lot of business leaders. There are some really clear practical steps they can take today. In 6 rough categories. Firstly, I'd advise all clients to get a grip of cash. Be certain that they have control of their short-term forecasting and their medium-term forecasting, and that they have a reliable cash forecast that allows them to manage liquidity in the business. Secondly, diagnose issues. If you're worried about the recession or you're seeing pressures on the business, diagnose them, list them out in really clear terms. Be sure that you know what is driving stress or distress in that business. Third then is to stress test and scenario plan, and I'd encourage clients to be really rigorous and robust and to challenge themselves on how far they can push their business plans and their forecasts before they break. To really stress test and scenario plan with them with real rigour. Fourth then, I'd encourage clients to really interrogate their supply chain, to plan for failure, look at critical suppliers now, list them out and think about what the contingency will be if certain suppliers do get into financial difficulties themselves. Next will be stakeholders. Build a list of stakeholders, make sure that, so we've done suppliers, supply chain, think about customers, landlords, pension schemes, think about who is important to your business, list them out and engage with them proactively. They'll want to support the business. There's a great history of that having happened in COVID, but it needs early engagement and collaboration with that stakeholder group. So list them out and engage with them proactively going into the new year. The last thing I would say is build a team around you of people that have got relevant experience. As I said, not a lot of business leaders have been through a recession, been through this kind of environment. It's quite unique. So building a team within the business that have got relevant experience of managing uncertainty, and also building a network, whether it's a coach, a peer group, a networking group, or even advisors, people you can pick up the phone to and ask questions about this environment, so that you get that real world experience.